Welcome back, everyone, to Mark Halbus the Vlog. Thanks for joining in on this beautiful, beautiful day. What do we have parked behind here? It's the F-Type. What's missing? The Lamborghini. So that's part of the update today. We're also going to update on some new hardware. I've had some people comment about some of the shaky on my other camera. I'm using a Sony 6300. I'm going to talk about a new piece of hardware I'm using today, and you let me know how this video looks in comparison to some of the previous videos and if there's been any improvement on that. So we're updating that. I also want to talk about, since we're moving on the anniversary of me buying the F-Type, we're moving on very, very soon to the 1-year mark. I really want to talk about some of the things, the goods and the bad, specifically about the F-Type. I know I've done reviews on it and I've talked about some problem areas, but I want to talk about things that I like about it and things I don't like about it that stand out after a year's ownership. But before we do all of that, of course, I want to refer back to last week's comment by Nuna Yo Business. Great handle there. But let's talk about it. They're asking me, what is it I do for a living to be able to afford this stuff? And I'm assuming that's reference to the home that they saw last week, because we were out at the acreage, my second home. I have 2 houses, boats and quads and things. And of course, I enjoy and indulge in the sports cars and the fun cars. As you can see, the F-Type, the Lambo, those are things that I truly, truly enjoy. So how is it that I came to be able to afford this stuff? Amongst a few things. And really, I really, for the sake of trying to be humble, because I really don't want to be that bold and look at all the stuff I have, because I don't necessarily like to brag about it. I like to talk about it because it's more about sharing the experience. But I truly am humble and I am truly grateful and feel blessed for everything that I've had. It didn't come easy. I mean, I worked really, really hard over the years, so I'll start out by wrenching this back. I worked in construction many years ago, did a lot of hard work there. I developed a lot of savings. I put a lot of money away. Then I started ramping up with vehicles. You know, I didn't spend a lot on the side. So, you know, like the wealthy barber says, a penny saved is a penny earned. I really do believe that. And that is a philosophy I lived by. That's how I started getting my foothold. Then as time went on, I started earning more. I got into higher paying jobs. Then at one point, I eventually bought into a business. So I owned a clothing business, which was essentially custom clothing. I owned that for quite some time. I supplied tour companies and other operations for clothing. Of course, a lot of it silk screening and other different logos and decals that I would provide custom for a lot of these companies. I did this for quite some time, and then, you know, I made some money there. And then at one point I decided to sell the business. I checked out, and I was able to put together some extra cash from what was residual from the business. Then I started getting into full-time work, got into oil and gas, started earning a solid living there. I saved a lot of money along the way just by, you know, a lot of it, again, penny saved is a penny earned. That's always been my philosophy. So that's been a big part of it. Then, of course, YouTube now has supplemented some of the things that I do as well. But largely, I guess my philosophy was, you know, I'm not inherently a millionaire by any means, but I would say that a lot of it has to do with just being smart with what you do. I mean, we still live the life. We like to travel and we do all of those things. There's, you know, we've got 4 kids, so we've never necessarily compromised in those ways, but there are things that you sometimes do without. And I chose not to indulge too much. I mean, I did a little bit of gambling, a little bit of drinking, but a lot of those kind of things I essentially steered away from. I don't smoke cigarettes, and honestly, a lot of those other expenses just were never incurred by me. So those are costs that actually add up over the years. If you really do a calculation, think about, say you do that, you know, that big fancy coffee that you buy from Starbucks, and it costs you, say, $6 or $7, and you do that once per day. Do the math. 365 days a year. It doesn't take long to figure out how much you will spend at that coffee shop just on that one cup of coffee. Now, that doesn't mean I do without, but I'm always a believer in watching where you're spending your money. So you save it here, but you can spend it on the things that really matter to you. But thanks again for your comment. Let's get rolling. Let's start up the Jag and go for a spin. So first I want to address this new camera. So far I'm loving what I see. You guys let me know what you guys think of the picture quality. Oh, there's a little bit of sun I can see. The beauty is it's more of a vlogging camera because I got this as a gift. I got the new Sony ZV-1 or ZV-1, depends where you're from. In Canada we call it Z, so ZV-1, Sony. It's intended for creators, it's intended for vloggers. It's got all the vlogging characteristics. It has a lot of great features and filters. It has a very small zoom, like optical zoom, I believe is only about 2.9. So it doesn't have an exceptional zoom, so I'm not sure it's the camera for everybody, but for vloggers and creators, this is probably the most dialed in camera available on the market yet so far. All the reviews are really good on it. The only thing what I've noticed so far that's not good, because a buddy of mine, Brian, he's got a channel called Automate My Life as well, but he does automation. He's not doing car stuff like I do. He's also got a ZV-1, and he notices that the battery life is horrendous on these cameras. So I would say if there's only one thing so far that I've noticed about it, it's the battery life. So far though, the functionality of it, the ease of use, and the quality of the picture so far is pretty good. It's got a decent stabilization, but more importantly, it's the autofocus that's really bang on with these cameras. And again, lots of great filters and features. So I'm really excited to start using this camera more often. So let me know, you guys, in the comments below. Not only, hey, do you have a comment? So maybe I'll address it next week. And even one of your comments, if you're interested in commenting about the camera, like, is this something that looks like an improvement from previous videos possibly, or is it comparable, or is it worse? I'd love to hear your thoughts. So then let's talk about the next thing for the week, the next latest upgrade, and it's all about the Lamborghini. And a few people have been asking about, where is the Gallardo? Obviously you saw it wasn't in the garage, and I have something to report on that. So if you guys saw the video there a few weeks back, you saw the dealership in Calgary pick up the car. I'm in Edmonton, so it was about a 3-hour drive. That was part of the arrangement. They said they'd pick it up and they'd drop it off when the car's done. We had an estimate. We knew I needed a clutch. It needed a big recall. And there was a few other little things that they stumbled across apparently when the car was in the shop. So I had the conversations with the service manager. It was a great deal. I've got to tell you, it was a relatively painless deal, other than, of course, now paying the bill. And I'll show you in more detail what that's all about in weeks to come. Obviously, I think once I get the car back, I'll show you what that, what the whole damage result was on that. But I did get the final tally on it. The car is now still sitting and residing at the dealership in Calgary. Thanks to those folks, they were great to oblige, and because I wasn't really in a rush to get it back just yet. I love the garage space for the F-Type, and so I just asked if they could hold on to it for a bit, and they did. So they're very obliging. Great bunch over there in Calgary at the Lambo dealer. So I want to throw a shout out to them. Very painless experience. But the bill on a Lamborghini to do a clutch on a Gallardo, even worse on a Murcielago, is not inconsequential. It's a significant tally. And again, as you would expect, a clutch on a Lamborghini, any repair on a Lambo would be expected to be significant. So did you hear I'm going in for surgery to have a body part removed? Yeah, I have to pay for the bill somehow, right? I have to pay the bill for that clutch job for the Lambo, so I have to give them a body part. I'm just kidding, guys. Sorry. Disregard that. I'm just trying to be funny. Anyhow, no body parts required there. I did pay the bill, as I said, and no body parts required to no harm, no foul. I was just a kid. Just kidding. But anyway, I am getting the car back soon. It was a big bill, and I'll share you what that bill looks like for the future. For those of you guys who might be more interested in, how much it costs to fix a Lamborghini Gallardo clutch. And again, I did a few other little bits and pieces. I'll review that with you in days to come. But anyhow, let's get onto the whole conversation about the F-Type and what my almost close to year of ownership perceptions have been with the ownership of this car. Has it been good, bad, indifferent? Like I said, I did a review there a couple of weeks ago, and I summarized it in one way, but I want to talk about in more detail the good things and the bad things, the things that sort of like noted as owning it for a while, things that you're like, I wish they could change this, or you know what, that was bang on, they hit that nail on the head. So let's talk about some of that. First of all, we'll talk about driving impressions, but before we park, and I'll show you we'll do a walk around and show you some of the things. Let's just do a short drive. So we'll talk about some of the very highlights. I'm not going to get into a full review, but in terms of the driving dynamic things that I like so much. Here, let me show you real quick. One thing is actually this. It's dynamic mode. Your gauges go red, and then you have a car that opens up the exhaust baffles and it sounds incredible. So that's the first thing I love about the whole driving experience. That's one thing that really stands out. So here, let's do a little quick punch. First, second gear, pull. So here we go. Whoa. Whoa. Yoses. That is absolutely incredible. So you hear the sound of it, you know, the acceleration is just immense. You know, they say on paper it's 0 to 60 in, you know, 3.5 seconds. Oh, sure, give or take. You put the hammer down and it pulls hard. That's all I can say. So in terms of driving dynamics, what do I like about it? I love the dynamic sound of the exhaust, and that's even better in these older cars, but I hear that you can tune that out if you get do a cat bypass and do some other rework. I heard AP has a tune with downpipes and things on the newer cars that you can dial that out, but we'll talk about that in future. So the sound is incredible. The acceleration is incredible. I would say the ride is a little bit harsh. If you want to know really the truth, on the roads that I come from around here, they're pretty harsh. It can beat you up pretty good. You're always looking for the smoother patch of pavement. There's a lot of cars that eat it up well. The F-Type is a little bit abrupt, but that's okay. It's a sports car. So if you want to know what that's all about. The other thing I would say regarding the driving experience is the fact of the handling. And for a car that weighs this much, and they're not lightweight by any means, these things are tanks, but it handles like it's on rails. I mean, it's power assisted, but everything feels like it's dialed right in. And for a vehicle that's all-wheel drive, often you lose some of that feel on the front, you know, the handling of things. But you don't lose that with this car. It feels very dialed in. It's very direct steering, so it's amazing. So the driving experience is something that hasn't gotten old here, and I love it immensely. So I've done the review on that. I'm not going to dig too deep. I think suffices to say you can definitely live. Anyone will be satisfied with this level of performance. I don't think there's anything to dispute there, and it hasn't gotten old for me. So another thing I love to do, not only put the loud exhaust on, I'll show you. So we've got dynamic exhaust, but I also like to put this over into sport mode so then you can hold your gears longer. So let's just switch that over. And listen to that noise. So you drive around in sport mode, it holds the gears longer, and when you're in dynamic mode, you just get more snap crackle when you lift throttle, say at around 3,000 RPM. Here, listen. Oh, I love that sound, wow. Listen up. Wow, that's great. So it's pretty obvious the drive is awesome in these things, but you know, when I hear the critics and the reviewers talk trash about the interior of these cars, I kind of take a little bit of exception because I mean, while you can always argue, you know, the Benzes have some of the nicest interiors or this or that, why is that? They use a lot of brushed chrome, brushed aluminum look. They have a lot of those types of fittings and materials, but that doesn't necessarily make it better. I know the Benzes and the Mercedes are really stepping up in terms of the wide screens, you know, looking at the dashboard, you know, like a lot of the Mercedes now have a full dash. On the new S-Class, it's pretty dramatic for sure. So they're big on technology. The Jag is a little bit more conventional, down to earth, but it doesn't mean the interior's cheap. I mean, a lot of people talk about the interior finishing of these. I like the piano gloss black. That's actually really, really nice stuff. I mean, you look at the piano black here and the piano black over here. It looks really, really good. I mean, these buttons are nice. Everything's really nice to the touch. And I love that stuff, to be honest. I think all these controls are very well made. They feel nice to the touch. There's a nice click. You know, everything is well made. There's still some of that brushed aluminum look here too. And of course, you've got no shortage of, you know, leather interior. There's leather finishing throughout the interior, and I love that. I think the interior feels very rich. As a matter of fact, even the steering wheel with a leather wrap here too feels very nice. And all of this stuff is nice. The controls, everything's good. I know I've heard people talk about how cheap this feels. And honestly, I don't know what else you would put there. Would you put brushed aluminum? I mean, if this was carbon fiber, yes, that would be nicer. But it's not carbon fiber. So that's about the only thing. And when people say about that, I mean, it's not the end of the world. I mean, if it's not carbon fiber, what else would it be? A lot of cars have a lot of that plastic throughout. This car doesn't have that. And honestly, there's a very, very rich feel to the interior. And I mean, just look around every which way. All the materials are either nice to the touch or nice to the look. You've got the thin rim here. I like that. That's classy looking. These guys are kind of unique, pretty small and low profile, but that's all you need. What else is nice? I really like this too. You have the full panel that opens up right here. This gives you a lot of space, but it gives you the privacy when you needed it as well. So you can open that up. So as a whole, I don't even see any real fitment issues on the interior of these cars. I did a little bit on the XE. I had an XE here recently on a review on my other channel, and I noticed there was panel gaps that didn't align and things like that. Although the interior still looked well put together and well made, there was some gaps and some misalignment stuff. But in the F-Type, everything looks very, very high quality. And other than maybe putting a little bit of touches of carbon fiber, I can't think of what else I would change in here. It's beautiful. Now, the other thing that's pretty obvious, I think, guys, I mean, look at the look of that car. There's really nothing else out there on the market that has the sex appeal of an F-Type right now. I'm sorry. Sure, you can get into cars, and M5 competition would be marginally quicker to 100. Yeah, you can call all kinds of stats, but honestly, I don't even care. This car looks so much better, in my opinion. I know somebody's going to argue with there, but these cars are just so great. I mean, I love the looks of them, and that's a big reason why I picked one up. But let's talk about a few of the things out here that I really don't care for all that much. Number one, I'll talk about, since we're talking about the goods and the bads, that sill right there. We're talking about the door sill, just right here, isn't really the best for getting in and out of. It actually, I find myself sometimes kicking the door sill or even kicking the door panel right here. This is often happens. These wheels are absolutely beautiful, so I would say that's a highlight for me, but there's a downside because they're carbon fiber. They will scratch very easily, and on ugly, disgusting roads like we have here with sand and gravel all over, you know that's going to take a toll if you don't take care of your wheels. Another thing I love about this is the way the hood looks. Let's pop that and I'll show you what I mean, and I think most of you guys already know that. Let's pop that. Let's lift that up. I mean, look at that, guys. That is absolutely beautiful. I love the looks of it. What can you say? That's one of the highlights for me. That's one of the little trick pieces, almost like the older Corvettes, sure, but I love that look. Now, one thing I will say, if you're talking about things I don't like about this car, look here. There's your oil filler. You look all the way around. I don't see a dipstick. Why? Because there is no dipstick on these cars. It's all electronic. And if there's one thing I can say, I've been driving BMWs for a long time. I've had the F-Type for a while. This is one of the worst systems, if you ask me. You pretty much have to drive around fully warm, which most of the systems you do anyhow, but then you have to park it, turn the car off, and come back in 15 minutes. If you try it in 7 minutes, it won't work. If you try it in 9 minutes, it won't work. If you try it in 11 minutes, probably won't work. You actually have to wait 15 minutes. Well, by the time you do that, you usually get to where you're going, you get into your house or work, you're not coming back out 15, 20 minutes or a half hour later to check your oil. And you don't want to do it when it's really cold because that's not the proper technique either. So I find it a little finicky. You have to do it bang on exactly. The BMWs I found, the ones that I've driven typically, you can do it quite easily. You can almost do it on the fly. If you pull up to a long set of lights, you can even do it sometimes between light changes. The accuracy, of course, goes down, but at least gives you a little bit of an idea. Now, I don't like electronic dipsticks in the first place, and I think most of you guys probably know that. I like more old school, and the C-Class Benz that we have that I just bought for my wife, hers has the old school dipstick, so why are some of these manufacturers all going this way? I don't get it, because the old school, obviously, the old school mechanics and those people that like to wrench on their cars still like to be able to smell it, check out the oil that's on the end of the dipstick. It's not just about the level, it's also about the quality. But anyway, that's part of what I'm not in love with. You've got almost too much automation. The other piece of automation that I'm not in love with are these things right here, the mirrors. I mean, they look really nice. They're cool. They have the nice look and design. There's no problem there. What it is you can't actually prevent the fold in, fold out. As you open the door, when you unlock with your key fob, the mirrors pull in and out every single time you lock the door. It's not driver changeable, and honestly, I think that's going to lead to premature wear on parts like this because they're constantly in and out every time you're unlocking the door. So I wish you could change that. I really wish. That's something that if I could go back to the factory, or if I could lead and tell those designers and those folks over in JLR Group, give the driver the flexibility to be able to turn that on or off. I'd rather leave them open. I get if you're in tight spots, but hey, a lot of us don't park in tight quarters. To be able to turn off that toggling of the mirrors on and off would be absolutely great. Now, I don't think you can do much with the handles because they are what they are. They're sort of shaved, so you sort of have to live with that. Another thing I noticed too is the rear wing, and that's a conversation in a lot of the forums too. I mean, these cars are absolutely beautiful, and so I still can't think of any other car I'd rather have. So there's no griping here, but I want to share some goods and bads. And I mean, for me, again, that back quarter look is just so phenomenal. It's just, what an amazing, stunning looking car. But this wing here, it looks great, pops up, goes down. It pops up at around 120 kilometers an hour or so and drops back down around 80 kilometers an hour, or whatever that is in miles, probably about 70, 75 miles an hour, comes up. Anyway, the only thing is, it would be kind of cool if you could operate it on the fly while you're driving. You can operate it via button, but that's only for maintenance. So when the car's off in a certain position, you can toggle it, it'll lift up the rear wing. But that's only if you're parked. It'd be kind of cool and kind of fun to be able to operate that on the go. Like a lot of the 911s will typically have that. Just more for the look. I know it's not really a functional thing, but what I find with the car in general is there's way too much automation. Some of those examples I just gave you about the wing, about the door handles, about the mirrors, those are examples of things that you can't control as the driver. And as a driver, I like to be able to control my car. I don't want the car to control me. I want to be able to control the car. And so if there's only one gripe about this thing, it's the fact that there's just too much automation going on. Now, we know every car these days has electrics and electronics and technology driving it, and you know, accident avoidance, pedestrian warning, and lane assist, and all of those great things. But in most cases, you can turn that garbage off. It would be kind of fun if you could disable some of those features on here, because that's too much automation in my opinion. But look at that front end, everyone. Wow. See, that again is more example of why I bought this car. I can't get enough of it. It's one of those cars that you just keep loving to look at. You know, I circle around this thing and I can't help but constantly look back at it. It's such a beautiful style. The curves, again, very Aston Martin looking, but you know, there's nothing else really on the road like it. So that's a big part of the positive thing and living with it. I haven't gotten bored of living with this car by any means. A thing, if you want to talk about a drawback, of course, we've mentioned this too in previous reviews, people have talked about, is the quality of some of the plastics here. I mean, this is all pretty flexible here. If you see, it moves around pretty good if you push on it. You know, there's a lot of plastic around that. So there's a strong potential for that to get hung up or broken. And then of course, as you can see, if you look down here, you can actually see all the splatter. The front wheels are pretty wide, and as they turn and they spit garbage up the side, these are flared out in such a way that you're always cleaning this area. Unless you're on perfectly dry roads, this area gets splattered, gets rock pitted. That's why you definitely got to have rock protection, at least up to here, and protect your rockers all the way, because those tires, the fat meats on the front, are not only wide, but they're very sticky when you're dealing with the Pirellis here, the P0s. They are definitely going to spit rocks all over the side of the car. You can see all the splatter up here already. So we're going to take the car for a clean and get rid of some of that mess. So I just wanted to share with you guys really kind of my long term on this car. I haven't found a whole lot of issues with it. There's a few little things. The dealer network, they're pretty good too, I found, for the most part. You got to watch them though, keep them in check, because it sounds like they're not quick to jump on warranty work, but they're pretty good in lending you, they're pretty good at lending you loaner cars, and they're fairly well to deal with. I love the app as well for starting the car. It also allows you to track and trace kind of your steps. Maybe you want to keep an eye on the car. It's, you know, maybe you've got kids in the house and you want to know where this car's been or where it's headed. So there's a lot of great features and components and elements to the F-Type, and I don't think at this point, if somebody said, hey, you got to trade it in and buy another car, I would probably do it again. I like these cars a lot, and for this price range, it's not cheap, but there isn't a whole lot that I'd rather have than this in that price range. Sure, when you get into the supercars for $500,000, that's another story we can talk about another day. But there's not too much about this car that I can't live with. I mean, it's a very livable car for daily. I mean, sure, the tires P0s aren't good for winter driving. I mean, with the ice on the road like this here, they don't work very well. So I'm very selective about where I drive, when I drive. Fortunately, this winter too has been very mild so far, knocking on wood. I hope I haven't jinxed that. But it's been pretty good. We don't have a whole lot of snow on the roads. Actually, roads are pretty dry. This is just a greasy parking lot. But most of the roads and the highways and the main streets are all poker dry, are totally dry now. So it's been it's been great to drive. I'm still keeping my eye out for a set of used winter tires and rims, but I haven't yet stumbled across anything just yet. So I still recommend putting winters on it because this really is a summer car the way it's configured right now. There's no doubt about it. But you can easily convert it to a winter or all-wheel, all-season type of vehicle because of the all-wheel drive. So it's a very livable car that I'm just loving it so far, everyone. So anyway, guys, enough about that. I've babbled on too long. I just wanted to share with you, how I've enjoyed the car so far. We're moving on to a year, and I've had a chance to drive it in the summer and winter. And it's not great in winter, but with the right tires, it's fine. But it's a great machine, and I'm going to continue enjoying it as long as I can. So be sure to drop a line down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you're one of the lucky comments, I'll draw it next week. We'll talk about it, and I'll answer your question to the best of my ability. And as well, if you're not already a subscriber, everyone please subscribe, because this channel is really, in my opinion, the people's channel. I mean, there's a lot of channels out there that talk about supercars. There's a lot of channels that do a lot of things. But at the end of the day, a lot of them, it's money that's so far out there that it's only a dream for most people. I'm here to really express that, again, I'm a family guy, 4 kids, my wife, and on a moderate income, solid, but moderate income, I've managed to enjoy the supercar lifestyle and really enjoy these cars to their fullest. So it's going to get only a lot better yet as we move into spring and summer. I plan on doing some great drives and get together with some great friends with some great cars. We'll have the Lamborghini back real soon too. We'll talk about that. So be sure to subscribe if you can relate with this. If you can relate to the fact that, we're not all loaded, we're not all rich, but we can still enjoy it. And remember, life's too short to drive boring cars. So the point of all of this is I'm here to prove to you guys you can live this lifestyle on a moderate level of income and really just live your life to the fullest. So hope to see you guys soon. Please subscribe. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.